Hey, welcome to Tough Guys TV. On this episode, we're going to be doing our cabinet pulls, and here's the hardware that we picked out. Some matte black finished pulls from Target. These should be pretty awesome. Here's one of them outside of the package. You can kind of get a look for how that is. Just 2 screws to attach each one. Our main goal though is to make a template, and we need to do that in order to make installing on all these doors a little bit easier. We've got a lot to do. So the first step is to make the template. We're going to be using a piece from the packaging that has the pre-drilled holes already in it that will allow this to be a little bit easier of a process. So we're going to go through that, how we make a template ourselves. There are some available online. We just weren't very happy with the ones that we found, cheap plastic, looked like they would break. So we thought we could just make one ourselves in the shop. So we're going to start with that, and I'll come back and show you what we came up with once we figure out what we're going to do. So here's a little bit more up close on the piece we're going to use for the templates. This is from the packaging again, and it has the pre-drilled holes already made in the paper that show, how we would need to mark on our template how these would actually fit onto whatever it is that we make. These measurements that I have noted here are to illustrate where it would go on the doors. So give or take about in this area is what we did. We measured up from the bottom of the cabinet, then we measured over from side to side on this little section, and that's how we got these measurements there. I've got a couple extras just in case we need them that have those holes pre-drilled to the exact size, because we also need some that will go on the face of some of our pullouts. So same idea here. We're just going to mount them right in the middle. That's how we're going to do it. Some people use knobs and pulls, kind of a mix together. In our case, we're going to just go with all the pulls for the whole kitchen. All right, back out here to the workshop. It is hot. I've got the fans going, so I apologize in advance for any noise. Okay, so my plan for using this piece from the packaging of the pull is because I have these pre-made holes that are to the exact specifications of that in particular cabinet pull. So the next step is to build some kind of a template, something that I can set up against the cabinet door and hopefully clamp down and just pop these pilot holes in and in the same spot every single time. So that's my plan. My idea was to actually use some of this hardy board that I have left over from the backsplash. It's really smooth on one side. It's a 1/4 inch thick, so it's not too thick, but thick enough to where if I put some pilot holes through it, nice and clean, I should be able to get nice holes, and it should hold really well, up against something that's the thickness of the cabinet door. When I clamp it down, get a nice hold and then be able to screw through it. Something a little bit more sturdy than, say, a piece of paper. I was worried about me being able to hold this in place. So I'm gonna try this and see what I can build and show you guys what I came up with. Okay, so we've got the piece of hardy cut down a little bit. I made sure I've got a nice straight corner, and I also got the soft side, which would be the side that faces the cabinet on the inside facing downwards. So what we want to do is we want to mark it here on the back side. And the way this would work is I've already measured on the piece of paper from inside. This is the total width of that shaker part of the cabinet door. We need to go 1 1/4 inch over and then 3 1/4 up. And that's how high the first hole would be marked. So it's going to be about in the middle of this, but it'll still work. So let me go ahead and mark my 3 1/4 mark up. So 3 1/4, 3 1/4, 3 1/4. And we'll go ahead and make our side line here. There we go. And then we need to go 1 1/4 inch up from the bottom, which would be, 1 1/4 inch over from the side, which would be our center line for that door. So let me make this mark a couple times. 1 1/4 inch, 1 1/4 and 1 1/4 inch. So now let's measure this one out. Okay, perfect. So that's our base, and here's our mark, so we know we have the 2 holes. So what we want to do is line this one up on the line in both spots, mark, and mark. And now that we've got those 2 marks, when we drill these holes, and I'll cut this thing down a little bit more, so use this as an example for the thickness of the door. If I were to put this piece underneath before I drill, I take a clamp, put that on there. Now I've got something nice and thick to put my holes through the door, and I'll be ready to go as far as the template goes. So let me cut this thing down a little bit, show you all how it looks before we take it inside and try it out. All right, we've got this thing cut down a little bit more manageable size. I've grabbed a scrap 2x4 to kind of elevate it so I can put the holes in here. We've got our drill bit already in place and rigid plug. If you don't have these cordless tools, or in the market for cordless tools, these things are great. Mine is all beat up, but man, I've had it for at least 3 years and they're still going strong. So let me pop these holes really quick. All right, and I believe that we are going to be good to go ahead and give this thing a trial. I've never used one of these before. I never thought about making a template in the past. I've always just kind of measured each one. I felt like this would make life a lot easier for this project, so let's go inside and try this out. And last but not least, before we head in, just wanted to show you guys here on a speed square, two of my smaller ones, that this thing is super squared up. So when we clamp this thing onto the side of those cabinet doors, it's going to be perfectly square. So we know right where our overline is, and we know right where our up from the bottom is for these. So it should be the same on every door. Let's give it a try. All right, moment of truth here. So this thing lines up really nice on that door. So let me clamp it in place down here at the bottom, and we'll see how well this works. As far as drilling our pilot holes, I'll probably keep my finger up here just to keep it steady, but let's go ahead and try this out. All right. Take that off. Those are super clean holes. Let me take a look here a little bit closer. Those look great. Very happy. On the inside, we've got very minimal of it with anything there. That looks great. See if I can get this thing to focus a little bit better. There we go. So that looks great. Let me get the cabinet pole installed and we'll make sure that everything fits okay. Okay, so I went ahead and made these holes a little bit bigger, and I also remarked the template here to have a little bit larger openings, and I went ahead and marked the lines a little bit thicker so that I can reuse this thing and it won't wear off as I go. So let me get these first couple of bolts in and we'll make sure everything lines up good. Hey guys, and one quick note here on the drill bit that I'm using. I want you to take a look here if I can get this to focus on the end of this bit. I've got that little tiny spike there, and this type of bit allows you to get that thing set a little bit into whatever you're drilling into prior to you starting to drill, which allows you to get a better seat for that drill bit before you start wobbling around to get a better hole. When you're doing something like cabinets, you don't want that thing to shake around. So just wanted to show it up close to that so you guys could see what type of bit I was using in the rigid screw gun here. And here's how these look both sticking out of the cabinet. It's a little bit of room, and if we bring in the hardware piece, start the bottom, line it up with the top, and then I'm going to screw these in from the back side so you guys can see how they look. Got the first one in, so I'll take a look here. So screws on both sides. I always use a hand screwdriver for these sort of things. I don't like using the screw gun. Don't want to over tighten and strip these out, have problems later on. And I think they look pretty good. So we're going to keep moving and we'll come back and let y'all take a look once we've got a few done. For the drawer faces, it's a little different. The template that we made to go onto the doors, it doesn't fit on a couple of our smaller ones. I don't want to have to resize this just for a couple of spots. You can see here that it's the thickness of the larger shaker style. So for the smaller drawer faces, I'm just going to use one of the templates from the box that had the holes cut, and I just went ahead and marked in the center. So the first thing we want to do to line up the center is we just need to measure the distance across here, 6.5, and we'll minus a 1/16. So 6.5. So to make the center mark there, and what I can do is line this thing up with the center mark that I made there. And then as far as the height goes, I'm just gonna eyeball the height and make sure that my two marks look level. And now let's drill it. And just one last quick verification, just to prove we're good to go. They're both 1 inch up on center. The total opening there is 2 inches, so 1 inch on center, 1 inch on center. And we know that our center line needs to be 6.5, just shy, and that's where we are. So we go ahead and get these drilled out. And let's test fit it. And we've got this thing looking good. So we can see here, everything is fit really nice. All the pencil marks went away real easy. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the other small drawer faces measured out, and then get some of these installed and show you the rest. All right, so all in all, this is a pretty easy project to do. It doesn't take a lot of effort or a lot of skill even, as long as you have the right tools and the right things to help you out. Spending some time to make a quick template is something that I feel like is well worth it. Yes, they sell some online, but you know, save yourself the money. If you have a scrap piece of wood or anything you can use like this, and for some of those I even just used the piece of paper as you saw for the drawer faces. So this is something that could come in, you know, really handy. That's not going to cost you any extra money. Also, just a really simple set of clamps, something to hold it to the cabinet. Tape measure. We had a screwdriver, and I used my rigid screw gun with a drill bit in order to drill the holes into the cabinet. So, you know, nothing here was, you know, super on a high skill level. It's just a couple simple little things could make even somebody who's very new to this sort of thing, make your life a lot easier in order to do a project like this. So thanks for watching. This one was a short one, lots of time lapse, but I didn't want to drag you guys along to each cabinet door. So Thanks for watching and supporting the channel, and make sure to subscribe and hit the like button if you enjoy what we do, and give us some feedback if you think of some ideas for new projects we could try around the house. So thanks again. See you in the next project.